89.5 KVNE. If you've met Patti Foster, you love her and she loves you. Patti is a good friend with a fascinating presence, and she touches people right where they live with compassion, passion, and humor. We know that nobody is beyond God's life-changing touch, but Patti sees to it personally that whoever she meets is going to know that they're loved and have value in God's eyes. Longtime KVNE listeners will remember Patti as an on-air host in the 90s. Her journey has since taken her around the world. And while she's excited to talk to anybody about what the Lord has done in her life, she does have a very specific ministry focus. And it all began on a fateful day in June of 2002. Well, this is so fun.
Were you guys ever on the air together, or was it just back to back?
Most of the time, it was opposite ends.
Yeah.
A season where I would come in on Friday mornings, and we did Friday mornings together for like 2 hours or something.
I forgot that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you did
Wow.
go on the
That
air
was,
together.
Yeah, that was
We
the only
did.
time that we were actually
See,
this.
I don't remember so much. So many details I don't remember.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it.
What's fun is that we can laugh about it now,
Exactly.
and we can rejoice about it. We can
Yeah.
celebrate it even
You
though
can say anything, I'll believe you.
it would. You wouldn't believe the things I've told you. Oh, I'm a little bit embarrassed. But we worked together in the early 90s, is the way I remember it.
Yeah,
And-
I started in 90.
And then you left for a season. And then when you came back to East Texas, a very significant event happened that changed everything. And I remember the date well. It was June 18th, 2002.
You
And
are so good.
and you were involved in an accident, and I will let you take it from here.
From there, life completely changed. In fact, everything went completely dark. There were 4 of us in a Tahoe on our way to our last Bible study meeting before taking a summer break. Over 100 degrees still. And Mike, and Carrie, we had our seatbelts on. I had just taken off my seatbelt. We were completely stopped at a red light intersection. It ejected me out of the Tahoe. I came up into the air. My body went. And they said when the SUV that I had just been ejected from stopped spinning, that's when my body came down out of the air, hit the ground, and skidded some 3 stories across the highway and stopped in a lane of traffic on the north side of the intersection. I was left for dead, no pulse to be found. White sheet pulled over me. Miracles happen. So now I get to travel around the world, giving hope, bringing hope to others who are dealing with brain injury. The survivor, the families, the caregivers,
Yeah.
the healthcare workers.
89.5 KVNE, talking with former KVNE DJ Patti Foster about her journey from traumatic brain injury to God's transforming redemptive miracle. What I remember about that day and how bad it was that you were hospitalized, and Lois and I went to see you knowing that you would not know we were there. And it was, very hard for those of us who visited you that day to see you that way. It was extreme. And since that time, of course, your story that you've just told is what people have told you, because you obviously don't remember any of that. And you talk about brain injury. Summarize that process where that started, and then to the point where you were able to actually start speaking and ministering about it.
Yeah. For so long, I was in the coma. For 6 weeks, I was a living dead person. Down here in Tyler, they had me at a level 1 trauma center. So they were trying to keep my body alive because there was brain activity. But everything in me had shut down, so I have no memory at all, not one single memory. So for 6 weeks, I'm a living dead person down here in East Texas. They moved me via land ambulance because they had to fly me in life flight helicopter. And from there, they moved me, after some 5.5 weeks down here, they moved me downtown Dallas, Baylor Institute for Rehabilitation. That's where I was when I began to wake from the coma. They had to teach me every single basic function of living. I remembered nothing. How to breathe, how to swallow, how to chew, how to blink. Had to reteach me my ABCs, 1, 2, 3, every single basic function. So now I'm doing what they said I would never, ever do. Never see out of my right eye, never walk, never talk, never speak in a complete sentence. That right side would never work. But miracles do happen. Huge.
Mm-hmm.
What was the time frame, I mean, as far as recovery and then being able to speak? Because I know you do speak to people groups, to groups all around the world.
And many of them are people.
I guess we are people groups.
Because I was in the hospital for over 100 days.
Okay.
And then after that, it was a long, arduous process of learning how to chew, how to let them put a spoon in my mouth. And so I was just like a little infant. I would just shut down. So I was in rehab trauma for all of that time, 100 plus days, in inpatient rehab for however many, month and a half or two. Insurance doesn't allow you to stay long. From there, transitional rehab, 3 months. Well, I had to go through driver's education again.
Did you feel like giving up at any point?
I'm sure I did. I don't remember all the details, but I remember the power of presence of my family because, I could sense their presence. Mm-hmm. Even if I didn't understand or know or could talk or say or speak, I knew presence. I knew if it was positive or negative, just like a child. I could read your nonverbals, and that's what many of us brain injury people, that's our first language. We can read your facial expression, your tone of voice, your touch, your speed of speech, your walking gait, how you stand. That's what we respond to. But all the time in that heaviness, that wanting to shut down, or just the darkness that would come on with brain injury, as you're waking from a coma, you don't remember anything. The only thing you might know is what's right directly in front of your face. Beyond that, pretty well does not exist to you.
More with former KVNE DJ Patti Foster on 89.5 KVNE. 89.5 KVNE. Talk with Patti Foster, a former KVNE DJ and now ministers to thousands of people, specifically to those who are suffering with brain injury, but to everyone you meet, you share the love of Jesus, and it comes through in your voice and your tone, your aura, the whole thing. And I remembered you before your accident in 2002, and you've always had that passion to share the love of God with people. And I thought, when this happened to you, I remember thinking, boy, if she gets through this, she's going to have a testimony on steroids. She's going to, there's going to be no stopping you. And by golly, if that isn't what happened, to the point of, you talk about the rehab, all the physical things, the thousands of details that had to take place for you just to be able to walk and talk and chew and tie your shoe and everything. Sure. They take that to the next level to be able to speak to people about what happened to you, and all the way down to your physical appearance. You look the same. Nothing has happened to you by appearance and by speaking with you. Talk about what God has spoken to you in that process. How has he made himself more known to you now?
Yeah, even during the coma.
Yeah.
He was more real to me than you are to me because he and I talked. I heard him. He heard me. It was back and forth.
Y'all are tight.
And then some. And then some. Huge. Massively huge. Before, I appreciated life. But after tasting death, there's a whole different urgency of life that I have now. There's an urgency to very much, these three hashtags are huge to me. Patti Foster, no matter what. You lay hold of the moment. And we know when those moments come because listeners right now are thinking of that thing that's been on them and sticking in their gut that they've known. Lay hold of that. You never know when the last moment will be or the quality of your time will be. And then lean into that moment and then live your moments on purpose, never to overlook or ignore. In fact, waking from the coma, your motto for living, MAD now. Make a difference now. Because you never know how much time you have left, nor the quality, what kind of time. So while we have this moment, lean into it.
So speaking all around the world, meeting all different kinds of people, what would you say is a common thread that you see in all people, brain injury or not?
The need for love. Just like a child, even the ones that, when we become adults, we forget a lot of the truth inside of us or a lot of the depth that's inside of us to live, to pay attention to, and to share, to receive. But I've also found that very much like the acrostic thrive, No, because people talk about, well, don't just survive, thrive.
Right.
Right.
Sounds good, but how do you do it? The acrostic came to me, thrive. T, try again and don't give up. H, have faith in God even when it makes no sense. R, receive love and give love. I, intentionally be about what matters. V, very consistently keep at it. E, embrace adversity and do the next thing.
Now, is this in your book?
It may be. I don't remember, actually.
I'm sure it's referenced somehow.
Okay.
More with Patti Foster on 89.5 KVNE. 89.5 KVNE. Mike and Carrie with former KVNE DJ Patti Foster and her journey from traumatic brain injury to miracle. Talk about your book, but tell us how we can get a hold of you. What is it that, because you speak all over around the country and even beyond at times to brain injury people, but to others as well.
Sure. The best way to get in touch with me is pattifoster.com, PattiFoster.com. So, but also now in Dallas, I am VP of hopeafterbraininjury.org. It's the only faith-based brain injury nonprofit that we're aware of in this country. And so we're all over the world. In fact, March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. And so Hope After Brain Injury's annual conference will be coming up this Saturday, March 27th. It's virtual. So starting that morning, anytime you want to, and I'll be emceeing that. So a lot being leaned into, laid hold of during this moment. And the state of Texas is having their conference on Friday the 26th, and I'll be speaking at that. And we'll be talking about emotional well-being after brain injury, mental well-being, because the greatest deficit, and many of your listeners may be aware of this or in it, the most residual effects after brain injury are not necessarily obvious, but they're inside, but they're primarily cognitive and emotional. And so that's how you have to deal with so much. So hopeafterbraininjury.org, how God is using it to truly make an impact on not only the survivor, but the family members, the caregivers. So it's about relationship and how God uses that to make a difference that counts.
We'll have those links on our Facebook page. Patti Foster, former DJ at KVNE, and now speaks around the world to brain injury patients and survivors, but to all kinds of people. And as we wrap it up, what's God been showing to you fresh today?
Again, to truly bring hope, live hope, and use words when necessary. It's very much like 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of all mercy. And basically, that we comfort others with the comfort we ourselves have been given through him. In fact, two of my main books, one is called Coping with Traumatic Brain Injury, One Woman's Journey from Death to Life. It's a very raw read of my story. So you crawl into the brain of a severe traumatic brain injury survivor, and you learn from there different perspectives it's written from. And then just a few years ago, I wrote Hope for the Journey, a 52-week spiritual journal, leads a devotional. Things I learned that God taught me through the adversity, and people talking to me around the world, like yesterday, a fellow from Ontario dealing with brain injury. Even one of my friends from A&M, horrible crash, suffered a major head injury. So we're all in touch. I'm on the state board of Texas for the brain injury. So Genesis 50, verse 20, what the evil one intended for harm, God meant for good, for the saving of many lives, as is being done today. Hallelujah.
PattiFoster.com if you'd like to contact Patti. We'll have links that you can reach her at our Facebook page, 89.5 KVNE Mornings on Facebook. Patti Foster, dear friend for decades, I dare say. You bring light and love everywhere you go. We appreciate love you so much. And you brought donuts.
Sprinkles to go.